What is going on, guys? My name is Amos and I'm back again with another video. So in today's video we want to talk about the structure of a C program, and we are basically going to introduce variables, which is something that you're going to be doing all the time, that is declaring and initializing these variables. So we basically want to talk more about, we want to pick it up from where we left it in the previous video, where we wrote our first program, that is the traditional hello world program. So in today's video, we want to understand the structure of the C program. Now, in the previous video, we created a file, and of course, which had the extension C. So we have a hello file with the extension .c. So now this is going to tell our most awesome Visual Studio that this is going to be a C, this is going to be a C file, right? This is going to be a file that is going to contain C code. So in today's video, let's talk about the structure of the C program. So let me just collapse that. So basically, the program is going to start with statements that are known as preprocessor directives. So we have two preprocessor directives here. So we have two lines that have, the pound include preprocessor directive. So now what this is going to do is that it is going to include the header files. Now a header file is going to contain declarations of functions and constants that are going to be reusable. So in this video, in this particular program, we might want to print out something to the screen. So we want to use something like the puts function, as we did in the previous video. We might think of using that puts function. So the declaration of that puts function is going to be in this stdio.h header file. So for us to be able to use that puts function, we basically have to include the header file that is going to contain the declaration of that particular function. So we basically have two header files included in our program currently. So we also have the stdlib .h header file. This is going to actually include declarations for general utility functions related to general purpose programming and memory management. So that is going to be the C standard library. So the stdio.h library is basically going to be responsible for is going to contain the declarations for managing our inputs and outputs. So basically let's print out something to the screen, so to basically to better understand what is going on. So remember the puts function. With the puts function, we can print out something to the screen. So let's say we want to print out hello world to the screen. So we're going to say hello world, and of course we are going to save our program. And as shown in the previous video, so we have to clear our bloated terminal, and we have to compile our program, and boom, the program has compiled successfully without any errors. So we try to run our program, and we get the most wonderful and the most traditional program, beginner's program, which is the hello world program. So we have that output. So the puts function is able to work because we've included this the header file, which is going to contain which contains the declaration of the puts function. Now if I was to omit this this line that I have here, let's see what we are going to get. So we save our program, and then we clear our console so that it does not get bloated. So we compile our program, and boom, we get the error in the main function. So we are trying to use a function that C cannot recognize, that is the puts function. But why can't C recognize the puts function? It is because we are missing that very, very important header file that contains the declaration of the puts function. So right, so for the puts function to be able to work, we have to make sure that we include that most awesome and beautiful header file, right? So that header file has been included, so we can now stop worrying, and we can try to maybe recompile and see what is going to happen. So we clear our console so that it does not get bloated. We recompile our program. Of course, we recompile our program as shown in the previous video, and of course we did not do the correct thing. So we try to, boom, so we compile. And of course, we did not save our program. As you can see, Visual Studio has that little circle, right there on top. So we save our program, and we try to, clear our bloated console, and we recompile our program, and boom, the program compiles without any errors. So the puts function has now been recognized by the C compiler, right? So now we try to print out our most awesome result, and boom, we get that wonderful result. So that is about preprocessor directive. So if you want to be able to use functions that have been declared in certain files, you have to basically ensure that you include those files. Now, while we are still on the topic of printing out things to the screen, we have a lot of functions that we can use to be able, to print out, things to the screen. So you can also create your own function that is going to be responsible, for this particular task of printing out things on the screen. So we can also use something that is a function that is also very, very common, that is going to be the printf function. Now, what the printf function is going to do is that it is going to help us to be, to provide, to provide some form of formatting to what we want to print out on the screen. So we can basically use what is known as a conversion specification, so we can be able to print out, values of different data types. So we basically have, we generally have about 2 arguments. So you can have 3 if you have more things to print out. So what we're going to do is we're going to print out the same hello world to the screen. And of course, what I'm going to do is, something that we're going to talk about later in this video, but I'm going to declare, a string. So a string is going to be a sequence of characters. So we want to print out hello world to the screen. Now, hello world is going to be a sequence of characters. So we have letters there, and we have a space in between. We have a comma, and we have all that. So a sequence of characters is basically going to be a string. So for you to be able to declare a string in C, well, you basically have to you basically have to do something like this. So of course, maybe let's say we are now bored and we don't want to do the same thing like printing out hello world to the screen. Let's try to print out the name of a person to the screen. So if we say name, for example, well, we need to throw in those square brackets. Now, what this is going to mean is that this is going to be a character array. Now, we are not talking about arrays yet, but our goal is to discuss, to talk about strings. So we'll talk more about arrays and this a little bit later. But of course, we can always try to do something with this. And before we even, get into great details. So we have that great detail. So that is a string. So if we want to print out this string, to the to the console, so what we have to do is to basically get our printf function, and we need to pass in 2 arguments at least. All right, we need to pass in 2 arguments because our goal is to print out one thing, the name of the person, to the console. So what we do is the first argument is going to contain what is known as a conversion specification for what is known as a string, right? So we're going to say, all right, so we're going to say, of course, we're going to be a little bit descriptive and say my name is, right? My name is, and then we're going to throw in that that conversion specification, and that is going to be our percentage S, for example. That is going to be our percentage S, and then we're going to throw the second argument is going to be our name. So what this conversion specification percentage S is going to do, it is going to tell the printf function to read the second argument, right? So basically that is going to be very, very, very important, so we can clear our console so that it does not get bloated, and we compile our program, and boom, the program is going to compile without any errors, and we try to print out the name. So my name is Amos Nurenda, which is good, and we got no errors, and we got the expected result. That is the most important thing. So that is about the preprocessor directives. So the functions, so the printf function has been declared, somewhere. So for us to be able to use this printf function, we have to include the respective header file, right? And now we move to the main this part that is going to contain the name main. So what you are seeing here is what is known as a function, right? What is known as a function. Now the first part, the int, is going to signify the return type of the function. Now this function is going to return an integer, but don't worry about return types yet. But what is going to happen here is that this main, whenever we execute this particular program, the main function is going to return an integer to the host environment, which is the operating system in this case, right? It is going to return an integer value to the host environment, which is the operating system. And then now the void between these parentheses is going to mean that the function is not going to take in any arguments. Now the void is not very important. We can actually omit it, and we can have that lovely function, and it is still going to mean the same thing, that the function is not going to take in any arguments. So the return type of this function is going to be an integer. So what we can do with these return types of functions, we can actually try to to give information to the host environment, whether we can try to give information to the host environment whether our program executed successfully or maybe it failed, as is the case now. So we have here, when we go down here, we have return exit status. So the exit status is going to be a predefined constant. Like I said, header files are going to have declarations of functions and of course constants. So the exit success is going to be a predefined constant that is going to expand to 0. So whenever we have this exit success, the compiler is going to basically put in that 0. So we are basically saying return 0 here. So which is going to be which is by convention good information that our program has actually executed successfully. So the return type of the main function is actually going to be what? Is going to be int in this particular case. So we can also do void, and if we do void here, we basically don't need that return, because the function is not going to do what? It's not going to return anything. So we throw in that void. So void is going to mean that the return type of the function is not going to return anything. So let me just bring back my lovely int, and of course int, and let's bring back that lovely return statement. So we say return, and of course we can just do return 0, or we can use the predefined constant exit success that is going to provide feedback to the host environment that the program executed without any errors. Now that is lovely. So the main function is going to be the entry point into our program. So this is a function that is going to be called whenever we try to execute our C program. So this is going to be called whenever we try to execute our C program. So we'll talk more about calling a function. So that is basically trying to run the code that has been written inside that particular function. And of course, while we are still talking about functions, we can talk about the scope of the function. So basically anything that is going to be in between these lovely curly braces is going to be considered as part of the function. So everything that is going to be in between these curly braces is going to be considered as part of the main function. Now you can also we can also press our most lovely enter key or our return key if we are on a Mac, basically to have that stylistic look. So we can actually the opening curly brace can be on the same line as the the line as the name of the function, which is main in our case, or you can try to push it to the next line. So basically C is not going to consider these white spaces, right? It's not going to consider these white spaces, and that is this is going to depend on what you actually prefer to have. So I'll try to leave everything as as we had as we wrote in the previous video. So now that that has been thrown aside, so now let's talk about something that is a little bit more interesting, and let's introduce the idea of variables, and let's make use of that lovely printf function, right? So if you want to declare a variable, so what is declaring a variable? So declaring a variable is going to be, basically means assigning a value to that variable, as well as assigning a data type to that variable. So more on data types in a few seconds. So if you want to declare an integer variable, so you basically have you basically have to specify the data type of the variable. So now C is a statically typed programming language. Now what that means is that every variable that we declare has to have a type. We need to specify the type of that variable, right? We need to specify the type of that variable. Other languages like Python, you can get away with this, so you can just say number and 23, and the Python interpreter is going to do what? Is going to figure out the data type of the variable based on the value that has been provided to that variable. Now in C, this is wrong. So you basically have to make sure